Hello, everyone. Thank you to those who attended our event last night. That was terrific to try a bunch of wines from San Felice from Tuscany, Italy, a delicious immersion into the world of Sangiovese. That was pretty cool. Thank you to Francesco Riviera for doing the presenting, coming all the way up from Southern California to do that. At any rate, got here bright and early in the morning in order to work on this and to celebrate this. This will be handled as the final topic of this rapid fire video. I want to spend a lot of time on final topics, so let's just say this will be discussed. What is this? This is a picture of some really crummy looking, very, very old vines growing on their own roots, ungrafted, unirrigated, over 100 years old, about 30 miles that away from here. So pretty darn local, right? We're going to tell you about a wine from there that I'm very, very proud to release along with everybody else who was involved. We're all really pleased with how this turned out. What are we talking about? I'm being vague. Let's work our way toward this wine. It's going to be final topic because it's at the bottom of this menu. So we're going to work our way down. How about that? So let's quickly get into this whole... Can we see that from here? That'd be nice to have that kind of in the background the whole time. Maybe we need printer cartridges or something. There we go. Look at that. Hey, we're getting fancy. All right. Well, like I said, feeling celebratory. So what better way to celebrate than with champagne? Well, it ain't champagne. It's fantastic sparkling wine that's going to kick off the wine bar menu for the week. You know, we do a different bubbly every week, right? This is from our friend Paul Durousset, who is the owner of Pure Clos Imports. Pure Clos is actually the name of Paul's hometown in Macon, France. And back there in Macon, his brother and his family make this, along with other beautiful whites and reds. All Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and a little bit of Aligoté as well. In this little winery, in this little village in the area of Macon, the southernmost part of Burgundy. Here is Cremant de Bourgogne. That's the name for sparkling wine from Burgundy, France. It's made like champagne. It cannot be called champagne because it ain't from Champagne. We are a few hours drive south of Champagne proper, but you know, they make good sparkling wine all over France, and they call them Cremant, C-R-E-M-A-N-T. Like I said, 100% Chardonnay. I think the family, this is probably their smallest production wine. Only about 100 cases of this are made. I'm not making that up. Oops, swallowed. It's delicious. It's like I said, it uses the Champagne grape of Chardonnay. It's a very, very good effect. So why not try a bottle of sparkling wine you almost certainly will not see just about anywhere else. It's like almost exclusive to us because there's so little of it, and it's good. That's the first wine on the menu, on the wine bar menu for this week. How about a white flight? Let's get into that now. No, let's not. Let's tell you what we're doing. We always have like a rosé by the glass and maybe a red by the glass. They don't belong in flights. They are available by the glass only. So let's describe those quickly. We welcome Jen and Madison and Tony back to the States. They've just returned across the pond from Spain, where they went all over the place in a rental car. And those places included this place called Muga. Bodegas Muga is a very, very famous Rioja winery. And Rioja, Spain is probably that's Spain's most famous region, right? Beautiful Tempranillo comes from there. Pardon the burp, but the bubbles did it. Beautiful Tempranillo comes from there. This is not Tempranillo, not even in rosé form. This is Garnacha, 60% or maybe 70% with Viura. That's a white grape. So it's a kind of an unusual rosé that uses red and white grapes. It's delicious. Muga reminds me, the presence of this bottle right up here on this box reminds me to tell you, if you are a thoughtful and careful watcher of these videos, you are hereby the first to know that in less than 2 weeks, we will be presenting an event focused on the wines of Bodegas Muga. So it'll be Muga probably in the form of 8 different wines coming from that winery in Spain. We'll add about 3 or 4 others that come from the same distributor, but from other producers in Spain. We will add the holy presence of Eric Edgar making paella. So during an intermission, we'll all jump downstairs and get a plate full of paella, come back upstairs and keep drinking great Muga wines and other wines from Spain. That happens 2 or 3 Tuesdays from now. You're going to see that more officially announced in an email pretty soon here. But in the meantime, let's try some great rosé from Muga. We should call it Rosado. Rosado is the more appropriate name for dry pink wine from Spain. Rosado. In Italy, it's Rosato. And in, of course, France and just about everywhere else, we just call it rosé. They wrote rosé on here to keep it easy for us to remember, but I like to say Rosado. Ooh, that is great for a hot summer day. Nice and lean, tangy, refreshing. Well, I said there's also a red by the glass. Let's see what that is. Ah, here we go, Brendel. This is Napa Valley Cabernet that was treated very untraditionally in that it aged not in regular sized barrels, not the 225 or 228 liter barrels that you typically see on a Napa Valley winery tour, but in a 22,000 liter vat, an oak vat, 60 years old, and all of that wine was kept in this monster vat. Like, you could live in this thing if you emptied it out. And Brendel Cabernet, 2019, Napa Valley. This is owned by the same folks who own Heights Winery. Ooh, that's pretty. What a nice nose. Beautiful deep fruit. No sense of new oak at all. It doesn't need it. The fruit is just overwhelming here. You should have a glass of Brendel Cabernet. Taste your first Cabernet that was aged in a 22,000 liter oak vat the size of a house. How about that? There you go, Brendel Cabernet. There's always a white flight. The theme of this week's white flight is Rhônish whites. Rhônish, meaning all of the wines are made from varieties that we consider to be Rhône varieties. In other words, coming from or used a lot in the south of France, in the Rhône Valley of France. Well, these aren't all from France, but the Rhône is inspiring these wines. So how about this one? This is Editaria. This comes from Terra Alta, Spain. Terra Alta is just right next to Priorat, just south of Priorat, or Priorato, if you want, which is on the east side of Spain, south of Barcelona. And this is, in fact, where Grenache Blanc originally happened. A mutation of the red Grenache grape happened here. So even though we consider Grenache Blanc, and that's the fancy French name, as a Rhône variety, it actually originated in Spain. So why not call it Garnacha Blanca? Garnacha Blanca, aquí está. And now this is a special one. These guys, Editaria, make about 4 or 5 different Grenache Blancs every year, Garnacha Blanca. And this is one of their higher end ones. It's very complex. It's aged a little bit. It's a 2018. It saw 8 months in oversized wood barrels, oak barrels. The barrels were used, so they weren't really conferring much oak flavor to the wine, but they were allowing for a semi-oxidative environment there. And so this is getting where Grenache Blanc often goes, or Garnacha Blanca, if you will, more correctly said, to a point of rich creme brulee it smells, and also something resinous, like pine, like freshly sawn boards of pine. I have a table saw at home, and there's something really interesting about, like, if whatever wood you move through there, you get a different scent. Like if it's redwood, if it's maple, if it's alder, whatever, every single wood that runs through that table saw puts a different smell up in the air. And pine has a very distinctive smell. I'm sure you've smelled it in other ways too, but just think of a pine box, a little bit of that. And was not aged in pine. It's just what Grenache Blanc or Garnacha Blanca does with a little bit of time. Nice richness, good complexity. Let's stay on this Grenache Blanc theme and do one from closer to home. So wine number 2 will take us to El Dorado County. That's the Sierra foothills up near, kind of near Placerville, you know. And this is from Skinner, one of my favorite wineries up in that area, who they've started to, like, over the last couple of years, make more refined elegant, more balanced wine up in El Dorado County. El Dorado County and Amador County, those Sierra foothill places were historically, or are historically known for really rich, powerful bucking bronco style wines, like kind of over the top. And now good winemaking is happening there, and they're recognizing the fact that the soils there are fantastic. All we need to do is kind of like deal with the heat a little bit and bring the wines down a little bit in alcohol if we can. Pick earlier, value acidity, and this is in fact one of the best Grenache Blancs I've ever had from California. And I'm talking about a winery in El Dorado County where like 10 years ago this would not have happened. Brilliant. It's very different from the one that I just described. It's not as rich, it's more refreshing, and because it is younger, it's 3 years younger than the one from Spain. The vines are not as old, and so this is what they're going for here is a more lively, zingy, you know, it's kind of like white stone fruit, like white nectarine, maybe what you get here, maybe some citrus. That first Garnacha Blanca goes with food, maybe pork roast or something like that. This is like hot summer day. Grenache Blanc, good stuff. Staying with that Rhone theme, where should we go now? Why didn't we go to the Rhone? How about that? We keep saying Rhone. What? Are we gonna go there? Yeah, let's do that. It's one of those crazy glass caps. All right, this is from Campouget. Campouget, this got here this week. I tasted it just last week and said, oh man, I haven't had a Viognier this good in a while. The only problem with Viognier is it can often be too much of itself. You know, it can be too oily, too rich, too hedonistic. It's always aromatic. It's always very fragrant, perfumey. We want that. We expect that from Viognier. But sometimes it's just like so much of that and so thick and rich and decadent that maybe it's a good sip, but it's not a good glass of wine. So here, in fact, is the predictable nose, but a little leaner, maybe like a barely ripe apricot is happening here in this nose. In the mouth, a nice level of what we often call in wine geekdom salinity. This salinity now. It's got kind of a briny, saline effect that totally negates Viognier's propensity for oiliness. So it's more refreshing. This would be fantastic with oily fishes, little sardine or mackerel gizmos. You know, that'd be delicious with this. So from the Southern Rhone Valley, a Coster de Nîmes from Campouget. It is 100% Viognier, all right? And the final wine is really trick stuff. This is a producer of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, of whom we only learned like 2 weeks ago. I took a stab at a purchase without tasting wine. I usually try things, right, to make sure they're good. But some of our providers of wine have become so reliable with recommendations that upon hearing that a little bit of this was available, reading some critical ratings of it about it as well, I just went for this wine. This is called Domaine de la Vieille Julien. And it is, like I said, made by a Châteauneuf-du-Pape producer. This is not called Châteauneuf-du-Pape because it is grown right across the street from where Châteauneuf-du-Pape ends. So it's across the street from that region, literally. This is going to be made with Marsanne, Roussanne, Bourboulon, Claret, Grenache Blanc, and I'm forgetting one. But it's kind of like a lesson on the Rhone white varieties all in one bottle. It, like I said, got a great rating. Besides all that, this is finessed and elegant white Rhone, and that does not always happen with white Rhone. Even a Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc can be kind of unwieldy and heavy and a little plodding, but this is better. This is... It's a super elegant exit from this beautiful white flight comprised of Rhone-inspired wines. Really, really good. Okay, now let's stay on that Rhone theme, shall we? And tell you about this red flight. It's getting more and more exciting as we head towards here, wine by wine. We're getting closer, but first let's go to Washington State. This is a wine made by a woman named Meredith Hislop. I've never met her, but we looked her up. This is made also under the influence of another guy named Christophe Baron. And most of you people have never even heard of him, but he is the genius winemaker of the wines of Cayuse. Cayuse is very, very hard to get stuff up in Walla Walla. And from what little we've gleaned about this wine, we are understanding that Meredith has Christoph as her mentor. And what is very obvious is the Cayusian effect on this wine. This behaves a lot like a Cayuse wine, except it does not cost $150. This retails for under $30. It is made of 70% Syrah and 30% Grenache. I think I have that right. Super vibrant in the nose. It never saw a new oak barrel. It was in barrel, but only neutral used barrels. Wow, really, really vibrant. If you've never smelled a Rhone wine like this, you may be slightly offended at first smell, but I want you to get into this. Once you're into this, you will be hooked for life. You're just gonna have to come in and do this, all right? Come in. Come in and have this great wine called Top Source. 93 points from Venice, so you do have the credibility or the validity of a critical score as well. So anyway, come check it out. Now, the next wine takes us in an opposite direction as far as latitude and in style, you might say. Where that Washington wine was lively and vibrant, this is going to be darker and richer, more powerful, and from south of here. This is a producer in Paso Robles, I should say. We just say Paso Robles, right? Come on. It is going to be made of Syrah, Grenache, and Petit Syrah. Yes, that's kind of like bastard grown variety. Why do we call it that? We can digress later. But I can tell you without tasting, I had it earlier when I was building the menu. This is definitely a bigger wine than what I just described. It's a little more sexy and rich and, maybe a little more familiar to you. And we want to go all over the place with this Rhone-inspired red flight, All things Rhone-ish, but let's see what the world in different corners of the globe is doing with Rhone varieties. It's kind of like the Hospice de Rhone event. And that's from Nell, N-E-L-L-E. Again, Grenache, Syrah, Petit Syrah, Central Coast. There we go. Next up, hey, where do you want to go now? Let's go to Priorat. Where's Priorat? Well, we just described Terra Alta as being next to Priorat. Well, this is right next to Terra Alta, which is, this is an hour and a half rental car drive south and west of Barcelona. And this will use the two Rhone varieties, as we identify them as Rhone varieties, of Grenache and Carignan. So 50% Grenache, 50% Carignan. Those are the two most frequently referenced grapes in Priorat. That's what Priorat is mostly about. Occasionally, a little Cabernet or Syrah is thrown in as well. But this is going to be, a typical Priorat is going to use significant dollops of Garnacha and Carignana, or Grenache and Carignan, however you want to say them. Wow, one hell of a wine. Already smelling the significance of those two varieties, but especially the slate that these vines struggle to survive in. Very steep, slaty slopes here, really beautiful area, dramatic. There's no flat area in Priorat. It's all steep and crazy cool place to go see. You gotta see it. Once you've seen it and you come back home and you buy Priorat, it's like visiting again when you have this wine. There's no wine like Priorat. There is absolutely nothing else like it. Man, it's time for a barbecue. All right. It's hard to leave that behind, but we must move on because we're getting closer to this. All right. Closer and closer. Why don't we try a Syrah? This is 100% Syrah from the Northern Rhone Valley. This is a guy who makes Saint-Joseph. And he also makes this little guy that he simply calls Syrah. This is Sylvain Badel. This is the best value in Northern Rhone Syrah that we have ever found. It has a lot of character, obviously a lot of color for the low price. Significant smells of licorice and meat and blueberries and blackberries, a little bit of reduction. We can talk about reduction some other time. We've talked about it before, and we can discuss that idea at the wine bar. What is reduction? Reduction just means you need to do a lot of this. Swirl it away. It smells a little, poopy, we could say at first, and then we move it around and we get our berries and licorice and smoked meats. And anyway, it's cool Northern Rhone Syrah, cool weather Syrah. This is where Syrah started, in the Northern Rhone. How about that? Really cool wine. Great value from the Northern Rhone. Now, drum roll please, we would like to present to you the 4th vintage. We made a 13, we made a 2014, we made a 2016, and this is the brand new, just arrived 2021 Domaine de Plus-de-Vie. This is a stained label. Let's put a perfect label out in here in front of you, because our future son-in-law, oh, who knows, maybe he'll never marry our daughter, but I think they're stuck for life with each other. Jason did the label for us. He's a brilliant designer. So, you know, we taste with our eyes first. So here, we wanted to put a beautiful label out in front of you. This is Domaine de Plus-de-Vie 2021, made by our good friend Adam Webb. It was made up in Sonoma, but more importantly, it was grown here in Oakley. Ungrafted, over 100-year-old, dry farmed, head pruned, piece of shit looking vines up in Oakley. But man, what you can get from old vines is, well, you get this. No, that's the Syrah. I need the real wine. I've got my stained label here. I'm gonna have some as if I've never had it before. Adam and I really did work on it together a bit, even though he did most of the day-to-day work. I did visit the barrels at least once to see if we might blend something in to say, like, this is delicious, but can it be even better? Can we amend it with a little Grenache? We tried doing that. We lost what we wanted from this wine. We added a little Syrah. We lost what we wanted for this wine. We decided to leave well enough alone. This is 60% Carignan, Carignana, whatever you want to call it, and 40% Mourvèdre. The Mourvèdre was whole cluster in form, and the Carignan was whole berry. They fermented together. That's called co-fermentation. In other words, these grapes got to know each other immediately. Instead of blending later on, they fermented together. They stayed only in large format barrels, puncheons and hogsheads, no small wood barrel, no new barrel. And this all happened back in the fall of 2021. It's bottled now. That's a quick spin for a wine. And so what you get is you're sealing up fresh young fruit by doing a quick early bottling. And that's certainly what's happening here. First, I want you to admire this color. Look, it's gorgeous, isn't it? This nose, beautiful fruit is the first impression, but when you drink it and witness the finish, you will find the Carignan and the Mourvèdre making nice to each other. And that's the thing with those two very idiosyncratic Rhone varieties, Mourvèdre and Carignan, these two troublemakers, of which you often only want 10% in your blend. These two, by being combined, and because of the whole cluster fermentation, are making nice to your mouth. It's beautiful wine. I'm very proud of it. I'm very grateful to Adam for working on this wine for us. 107 cases bottled. It's going to the California Wine Club next month. Many of you supported our need to pay the grower for his fruit right off the bat last fall by buying some futures. You can now come pick up your futures. For the rest of you, it's ready. It's up at the wine bar. It's down on the shelf. It's all over our store because we have a lot of it. I'm a proud papa. At any rate, come on in, celebrate the release of this wine. Have a whole doggone glass of this. I mean, do that Rhone flight and then say, you know what? I am now ready for a whole glass of Domaine de Plus-de-Vie. And maybe I'll even tell you what that means. Domaine de Plus-de-Vie, released as of right now. Come and get it. Thank you so much for watching. Let's celebrate.